Good evening everyone, and thanks for joining us once again. We just wanted to start with a very big thank you to all of you for buying one of these tasting packs and joining us this evening, and a much bigger thank you for supporting us through this very difficult period. I don't know when it was, 12, 16 weeks, whatever it was now. As we've stated before, when I, as well as the rest of the team, had a few sleepless nights wondering where all of this was going. But you guys have been truly fantastic in continuing to purchase our beer and keeping the lights on here and making sure that whatever else happens, Brew York will still be here at the end of this crisis.
Yeah, so a big thanks again to everyone who's been ordering, like Lee just said. So anyone who's not met us before or joined us before, Lee's on my left, and I'm Wayne. So we started Brew York. Well, we launched Brew York just over 4 years ago now, but we started the groundwork for that quite a long time before that. So yeah, thank you to everyone for supporting us throughout these difficult times, and thank you to the team who work for Brew York, who've been keeping everything going during these crazy times. It's been really, really surreal, but the guys have been doing an awesome job, and especially the guys who are still at work brewing beer, packaging beer, and helping us get the beer out to you guys. But just as important are the team who are on furlough at the moment, who are sat at home, mainly the bar team, who can't wait to get back into
Hi guys.
This venue here. So we're sat in our beer hall, which is probably never been this quiet. So it's pretty unusual to be in here at this point. So we're going to go through a few different things. These are going to give you a bit of an agenda, but you might want to pour your first beer while you're listening to us talk. And we've learned from last time. So 4 weeks ago when we did this first tasting, we got some feedback that we need to make it a bit more obvious which beers we're tasting. So first up, McConaughaze. So Lee will tell you a bit more about what we're doing while I pour it.
And we've learned a few other things, so thank you to all of you that have subscribed to the YouTube channel. So you can now see us in widescreen. You may say that Wayne and I don't need to be any wider, but for whatever reason you wanted to see us in widescreen, so here we are.
I've been told it's the camera, it adds a few pounds.
And we also have a proper microphone, so hopefully the audio quality issues that we had last time will not be a problem this time. So to answer to what we're going to do this evening, we're going to be sampling 4 of the 11 beers that you've purchased. We wanted to drink somewhat responsibly, so we're not going to do the whole 11, but that said, I think the average strength of the 4 that we are doing is going to be sort of 7%. So perhaps next time when we do this, we need to dial that down a little bit, because perhaps all of you haven't got the aggressive palates that myself and Wayne have. So we're going to be sampling those 4 beers. For each beer, Wayne and I are going to go to a different area of our brewery to sample that beer. We're going to talk to you about the name of the beer, the concept, the recipe, and then we're going to taste the beer and describe the flavours, maybe even discuss some of the ingredients, etc. As we go along, we're also going to have a specialist subject in each area. So we're going to be starting talking in this area about beer and food, and when I've concluded this bit, Wayne will be taking you through that. And we're also going to be fielding your questions in each area. So many of you have already contacted us with some questions in advance of this evening, but you can still get your questions in, and we really, really encourage you to do that. I don't know about you, Wayne, but for me the best thing last time was the amount of interaction we got, the amount of questions we got from you guys. That's what really makes this event. So if you can keep sending your questions through, the best way to get them to us is in the comments section below this video. And then we've got Alison behind the screen, who has a big stick with a little hand on, and she's going to keep passing questions into us. So don't be alarmed if you see this random little hand appear in front of the screen. So yeah, please get your questions in, guys. And
yeah, well, the other bit was anyone who supported us and bought the online tasting pack, you'll notice there was 11 different beers, not quite as many as we've got back here, and also a few snacks. So Lee will tell you a bit about the beers later on when we get into the brewery, but we'll focus on the 4 that we're tasting. But the snacks, so we've put a couple of decent snacks in the pack this time. So we've got Serious Pig. We've worked with Serious Pig for quite a while now. We met the guys down in London when we were visiting our friends at Brewery. They do some awesome snacks, lots of different charcuterie style, but also these are pretty interesting. So we've got a snacking pickle. So we like to find quite interesting different flavour combos, and this is going to be a really cool snack to have with sour beer. So a bit of a palate cleanser. So later on when we have Simon Le Mans, it's going to be quite a nice snack to go with that. And then the other one is a relatively new release from Series Pick. So I'm pretty obsessed with their snacking cheese. It just tastes like the burnt bits on cheese on toast. It's really, really good.
It's too good.
Yeah, we paired it last time we did a tasting. We paired the standard one with Tom Coco, Emperor's Tom Coco, towards the end of the evening. So again, it's something we suggest with dark beer. So we'll probably say this a little bit later on. This one's got truffle in it, so it's quite an intense truffle flavour, which so it's really unique. One thing I found in the build-up to this is that the two snacks, I'll take one pickle and make a sandwich out of the snacking cheese. Really, really good. So
I'll second that.
Quite a bit to go through, so without further ado, I'll let me tell you about the first bit.
So before we get into the specific beer, just want to talk you through the technique of tasting beer. I know we did this last time, but some of you won't have joined us last time. So you're going to pour your beer into a glass, ideally something like this, where it funnels the aroma. So first thing you're going to do,
in case you're wondering which beer,
is to smell the aroma. And if you want to intensify that aroma, I suggest you put your hand over the glass and you roll it around. Let some of those aromatics go into the headspace in the glass, and then have a good sniff. And what I'm immediately getting there is big tropical character, and I'm getting that kind of trademark pineapple-y, coconutty kind of character that you get from Sabro, which Wayne will be talking to us about a little later on. So in terms of tasting, our perception of flavour is 20% taste and 80% aroma. So the way in which you taste is take a little sample into the mouth, swirl it around, swallow it and exhale. Yeah, good. Thankfully. So that's retronasal action. So when you're exhaling it, that's when you get the biggest hit of flavour. If you don't believe me in terms of the impact that your sense of smell has in terms of your perception of flavour, think about when you have a cold and you lose your ability to be able to taste. And if you really, really want to put this to the test, I suggest you get something like a Jelly Baby, hold your nose, put it in your mouth, chew it, and then release your nose. Before you release your nose, you will not have been able to perceive much flavour. As soon as you release the nose, you'll get a really, really intense, sharp hit of flavour. Another really not so nice way to do that is to hold your nose, bite an onion, and then release the nose. The onion will not have tasted overly bad before releasing your nose, but the second you release your nose and allow that aroma to come through, you will find it very, very overwhelming.
Yeah, so the other thing, just some of the more simple things about the beer. So it's a 6.2%. So for us, that's quite a nice strength. For some of you guys, it might be a little bit stronger than you used to. But the extra strength helps work with a lot of the different flavours of it. And it's a double dry hopped pale ale. So DDH is double dry hopped. So this one in particular, we used a special yeast strain. It was an experimental yeast strain that was.
So we have a good friend, Bob, over at Lallemand, who is a yeast manufacturer, among other things. And they have taken Verdant's house strain and they've created a dried yeast, which they have been trialling, and we were privileged to be included within that trial. It will be commercially available, I believe, within the month. And we tested it in 2 beers, this one and another beer called Sin City, which I believe is live on our website now. Yeast obviously create alcohol. They can also do a few other things in beers. Some are considered to be neutral, so they generate alcohol and they don't contribute flavour. This type of yeast is not neutral, it is also flavour contributing. A very good example of a really flavour contributing yeast would be, think of any Belgian beer you've ever had. That kind of signature clovey, banana-y flavour is not from any malt, it's not from any hop, that is the yeast contributing that flavour. And this Verdant IPA yeast that we were lucky to be able to trial in here, as well as the beautiful floral, fruity, hoppy character that you get from the hops, the yeast itself is also contributing fruity esters that really complement those hops. So we're super pleased with this yeast. I've already put a pre-order in to get more of this yeast. That's how keen we are to work with more of this. So how did the name concept for this one come about then, Will?
So this is pretty. You've probably noticed we we like to keep our names for us interesting. We do like a good pun. So you've probably seen from a lot of the beers in your pack, but also the beers on our website, that most of them are pretty out there. And it kind of this beer in particular stems back to a beer we made with our friends across at Trembling Madness in York. So we wanted to brew a beer that was representative of different icons in York, and one of which was Dame Judy Dench. So we made a beer called Dame Judy Quench, and somehow we managed to get it featured on the Graham Norton show. That was a pretty interesting feature. So.
And then on that evening when Dame Judy was on the sofa with Graham Norton, there was also the likes of Hugh Grant, Jennifer Hudson and Matthew McConaughey, who drank our beer, and we thought, my God, he's such a cool dude. He deserves a tribute of his own. And it was actually one of our brewers, Jack, who came up with the name Matthew McConaughey's. Like, yeah, we've got to go with that. So we then created this beer using the Lalamand yeast strain. It's hopped with Amarillo, Sabro and Mosaic. And, well, you tell us guys, what do you think? I think the most prominent character in here for me is definitely the Sabro. I'm getting big kind of pineapple notes.
Sabro is relatively new hop. We've used it a fair bit to different effects. We've used it in a mild, believe it or not, and we've got a nice barrel aged type effect from it. You get quite coconutty flavours and stuff from it as well. But it's also, well, I'll tell you a little bit more about the hop later on. I don't want to preempt some of the other stuff we're going to go through. But it's pretty interesting. Makes it nice and easy to drink for a 6.2% beer.
And you probably noticed we go to town with the artwork on our cans. So this particular one is inspired by a Matthew McConaughey film called Dazed and Confused, which is where his catchphrase, alright, comes from. Okay?
So the guys at United by Design here in York do all our branding for us. So pretty much all the awesome artwork you see on the cans comes from mainly Owen and Katie and the rest of the team at United by Design. So cheers guys.
Cheers guys, hopefully you're with us again this evening.
So we won't go into too much detail about the beer. Hopefully that's a nice overview, hopefully you're enjoying it. So we wanted to cover a few other topics in the different areas when we do tonight's tasting. And we figured as we're in our beer hall where we have live street food, we have fresh street food cooked to order, we figured we'd talk a little bit about food and beer. So if any of you guys haven't visited the beer hall before, please come down once all this is over and try it out. We've usually got 40 different beers on the taps behind us. And then to my right, which you'll see on our way out, we have a open plan kitchen. So our current resident vendor is Blue Smoked Meats, so they do some awesome smoked barbecue food. So usually we walk in,
a little bit too awesome.
Exactly, we walk in, we have some, we smell it in the morning, and we've got to eat here for a lunch or an evening. It's really, really good stuff. And this month, also in your pack, you'll find that there's a beer for you to taste outside of this event called Up in Smoke. So Up in Smoke was a collaboration we did with Blues, and it was basically a maple and barbecue smoked porter. So pretty interesting taste. You get a nice smokiness from the malt, you get a really nice sweetness at the end from the maple, and it's just such a cool beer to use with food. So think of your beef brisket, slow cooked beef brisket with this as a glaze. It'd be so nice. So we like to try and pair beer and food. It's one of the things that really works well, and a lot of people don't really think about it too much. So we've also worked quite closely with Yuzu Street Food. So Yuzu do Japanese style food. So they're usually based in our. Not many people know this one either. We also have a bar in Pocklington, which we opened just before all this kicked off. So we have a really cool venue across in Pocklington with 10 cask beers, 10 keg beers, and then we have Yuzu as the street food vendor based there. So they make really interesting Japanese food. My favourite's the duck fries. So duck fries and a nice one. Some cocoa works quite well.
Yeah, katsu curry for me, I think.
But yeah, with things like Japanese food, you get really nice fruity IPAs. They work really well with it. But it's just something that we think really works well. So we like to talk. Well, we like to encourage people to try the food when they come there. And hopefully, when we find out a bit more about when we can reopen, we'll be able to have you guys come and visit us, you'll be able to order from the table, which will be unique for us. Something we're looking at doing, launching our own app, so you can sit at the table, order your food and drink, and have it delivered to you. Try and make the most of the situation, which will.
So we don't want to go into too much detail about the new social distancing measures we're going to introduce. We'll be doing lots on that, on social media leading up to the reopening of the bars. So we've done lots of pairing events before. What would you say was your favourite?
So I don't know if anyone watching has ever tried Siren craft beer. It's
once or twice.
Yeah, as I say, they've been around for quite a few years, but make some amazing beers. Broken Dream won the Great British Beer.
Yeah, maybe 2 years ago.
Yeah, best beer in the UK and the GBBF a few years back. They make some really, really cool Imperial stouts, like the Caribbean chocolate cakes, really good beer. And we do quite a lot of events alongside these guys, so we thought it'd be great to bring them up to York, do a tap takeover event, and do some food pairing. That was when our resident kitchen vendor was Born to Lose Burgers, so they did some really cool paired food with the different Siren beers. Yeah, great event. And we're going to be doing more of that when we reopen. So you'll be able to book a ticket, get 4 or 5 different beers paired with different small plates. It's going to be pretty interesting. So if you ever see them, come and join us. We can tell you a little bit more about the food and beer.
So yeah, like Wayne was saying, food and beer has always been huge to us. Right at the very beginning, before we had the kitchen here, we always did events. We always had food trucks that would come and park out in front. It's just such a classic pairing. Really good beer with really good street food. And we've been able to bring that along with the internal kitchen here, working with the likes of Blues and Yuzu. So in here we serve 40 different beers, in fact 41 now because we added an extra nitro line down the end here.
The new cast line.
Oh, plus 43 if you include a couple of cast lines we also have here. And if you're lucky to catch us on the right occasion, you would also see a slushy machine towards the end of the bar over there, where you would be able to get perhaps one of our sour beers turned into a lovely slushy, or maybe John or Liam would be around and they would knock up one of our Hoptails, a beer-backed cocktail, which would be served on ice through this machine.
Yeah, the Tom Coco White Russian is frozen. Every time we've done an event and we've taken the machine, it's been such a hit. Randomly, we're going to talk more about Untappd later, but people were then creating beers on Untappd for these Hoptails, and they were like scoring them 5 out of 5. It was just crazy how popular they were. So yeah, if you ever come down, look out for the Tom Coco White Russian on the soft serve. It's really good.
Well, I suggest you don't have more than 1 or 2. They can get you in a bit of a mess.
Yeah, Ant knows a lot about that. If Ant's joined us tonight.
I am, if you are with us, mate. Right, so we are about to move on to the next area and sample the second beer, but before we do that, we have a few questions. Right, do you want to have that one first?
I got the first one then, so it's from Super Big Jim 79, Alison, get on the camera.
Right, so that's James Lawrence, I'm guessing. Yeah, hi James. Alison's response, you can probably read that. No. Right, there we go. Next question. So from Morley Belinda, at Morley Belinda, has the coronavirus issue permanently changed you as a business in any way? Also, if you encountered such an issue again, would you respond to it differently in any way? Want to go on that first?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. So we were really lucky when all this started. We literally just invested in a massive upgrade of our canning line. We over-invested. We went from a relatively entry-level canning machine to not quite top of the range, but for a small brewery, it's top of the range machine with a full depalletizer.
From 3 filling heads to 11 filling heads.
Yeah, we can do in a day now. We can can more beer than we used to can in a week. So it's really good. Which is time couldn't have been much better because obviously. We used to, well not obviously, but we used to do maybe 25%, 30% of our beer went into cans, the rest went into cask and keg, and now 95% of our beer is going into cans with a small amount going into keg. So we had the equipment to enable us to do that really easily, and I'm sure, what was the name the guys used to call the old canning man?
Babs or Barbara.
So named after Rhubarber Streisand. So yeah, I'm sure the guys would have.
It was usually preceded by an expletive.
Yeah. I don't think they'd have been very happy if you had to do all the canning on that.
In fact, they call the new canning line Donald because he's making canning great again. That is. Okay. Next one. Can we read that one?
So we've got a David Newsom. Any chance of increasing the range of cans available on sale at any one time, or is it limited to current production?
Yeah, we'd love to, and we are trying, but even with this upgrade of the canning line, and this isn't a complaint, you guys are buying them quicker than we can make them. But carry on doing that, please.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably find if you have a look out there, different breweries of maybe our scale and the level above us, the range isn't going to be huge at the moment, so we think we're doing quite a good job. We've usually got at least 12 different beers available, which is crazy compared to what we normally have. Hence why we can make these tasting packs. I'm always trying to make sure we have a wide range on the web store. We always try and, well, we won't try, but first, whenever we bring a new beer out, a big chunk of that's always reserved for our web store. So you'll probably find that the beers will be available longer on our store than they'll be anywhere else. Matthew McConaughaze, for example, it didn't even go on general release. The beer pre-sold out, but we made sure we had plenty for our web store, so we'll still have it online on our store for the next couple of weeks. So yeah, we will do our best, and yeah.
And you can get them elsewhere online from other great vendors that we've sold as well. So what we're trying to do through this period is, yeah, we could return all our stock and we could sell it all through our website directly to you guys, but that would be very, very disrespectful to the trade customers who got us into this position, who got us where we are today. So we're trying to keep our web store stock good, but we're also trying to make sure that we're getting stock out to the guys who have supported us up until this point. Okay. Next one, at Tory, I believe that is, or at Tom, how would you read that? At Tory. Will you ever release the tasting packs for people to watch these back and drink along if they missed out? I think that would be very difficult to do because there's probably at least half the pack there is one-off releases that we don't plan to produce again. So it would be difficult to do a replica of the pack.
Yeah, but what we'll try and do, so we've now got this YouTube channel. We've now, thankfully, all you guys subscribed and managed to enable us to live stream like this. So we want to keep content on there, so we'll watch this back, and as long as me and Lee don't make idiots of ourselves, we might put it live for you to all watch in the future. And if we've got the beers still available on our website, people could buy them and do the tasting themselves. So at Jacob Unwin, your artwork is awesome. Have you considered doing collectible cards or something similar for each beer? So yes, we do talk about this quite a lot. We do want to do more artwork and t-shirts and merchandise and limited prints, and then we just get stuck in the production and keeping the beer flowing. So yeah, we will get better at it, and we've had a few different ideas throughout this period. So keep watching our online store and social media, and we'll let you know when we've got some interesting stuff to release.
So next one to shout out, we're going to say hi to Sophia and Lily.
Hello.
Hi. Next one, at Matt Barker. Do you think you will do another Doc's Beer tap takeover? Well, they're very, very good friends of ours, Shaz and the team, so I wouldn't rule it out.
They were supposed to be coming across just before all this worked off. Yeah, and we will do one, yeah, but we need to work out how it all works. They're brewing Controlled Explosion with a little less explosion, so that'll be released shortly.
Sorry, Shaz.
So it's a rebrew of our collab, and hopefully we'll be able to do something to celebrate that being launched again. So it took us a while to work out what this one was, but this freaking name must be available. So that's who this one's from. Do you create recipes to suit the punny names you come up with, or do the names come after the recipe?
No universal answer to that one. So sometimes there's a beer and we need to fit a name to it. Other time there's a name, and the one that always springs to mind is Juice Campbell versus the Army of Dankness that you then have to fit the beer to. It's got the word dank in the title of the name. So that limits your selection of hops. There's only certain hops that are going to give that dank kind of character. So for that one, it was the name came first and we constructed the beer to fit the name. But it's not always one way. We vary that. Final question we have for you in this area is, at Adventures in Optimism, What was the first beer that inspired you to start brewing, either home brewing or for a business, and or to start a business brewing?
So for me, that one, there's two beers in particular. First one is Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. It was just a game changer for me. American hoppy beers and readily available in the UK for, in bottles, and then soon after that cans. And it's not, sorry, this is the third beer, but their torpedo was awesome. That used to get me in trouble.
Hard to get now.
Yeah. So yeah, Sierra Nevada was crazy different for me. And then closely followed by Punk IPA when that first came out. That beer was just so different to anything else I'd had. Obviously, since then, DIPA was around as well. So DIPA, Punk IPA.
Yeah, I think DIPA for me, that's the one that kind of, when I realised that beer could be different, it didn't have to be yellow and fizzy, and it didn't have to be brown and warm. I think that was the first beer that opened my eyes to there's a hell of a lot more different things you can do with beer. There's a lot more flavour out there. But I would also have to give a second one. I think I possibly had Rooster's Yankee before that, which I think, as far as cask beer goes in the UK, is one of the best ones out there and is super smashable. And I'm really, really missing it right now. I think that was probably the first time I maybe encountered American hops, but without realising that's what I was doing.
Yeah.
But I've always loved that particular beer.
Yeah, so some great beers, and obviously since then there's amazing beers. We could talk all night about it, but we each happened to move downstairs. So if you want to come downstairs, for people who've been to the beer hall and didn't realise our tap room was adjoining, and vice versa, people who come to the tap room and didn't realise the beer hall was just a flight of stairs away, follow me and I'll show you how we get down there. So the beer hall's usually open 6 days a week from midday till 11 PM most days. Tap room, because there's an open brewery there, is usually only open evenings and weekends from Wednesday onwards. So you may not realise they were linked, but they are, and it's pretty impressive when you can know.
So yeah, welcome to the tap room. As you can see, it's very open plan. You've just seen all the beautiful shiny steel over to the right there. So literally as close as you can possibly be without being in the brewery. So in this area we're going to be sampling a double IPA.
Yeah, we're going to go from a 6.2 up to an 8.5%. So we've got the helpful prompter, so we've got the large cutout of Optimus Prime 2020. So for anyone who doesn't realise or isn't aware of the full detail, when people abbreviate DIPA, it stands for a double IPA or double India Pale Ale. So double IPA meaning it's usually twice of most things, especially the strength. So the strength is the main area. So 8.5%, quite a bit stronger than you'd normally drink when you go to the bar. You probably have a small measure.
Stick myself there.
Cheers. So this beer originated 2 years ago. So I'm not sure if any of you guys will remember the World Cup 2 years ago. It was pretty interesting. It was hot weather. We had the England doing well, and in the space we just came down from, we actually were in the midst of building it. So we managed to get some one-off planning permission to use the space to put the football on the big screen. Some pretty cool events, temporary events we had up there. And at the same time, we had Sean from at the time, Local Poly, come and visit us. Now called Poly Brewco. Yeah. So we brewed Optimus Prime with him. It was a really cool beer. It was same strength, wasn't it? I think 8.2 or 8.5.
I think it was a little stronger last time we brewed it. Yeah.
So it was actually 8.5. Yeah. I think. So what confused me there is the prompt that we were looking at earlier to work out what beers we were going to talk about said 8.5%, but it's not an 8.5% beer, it's an 8.1% beer.
That'll have been me, right? In fact, I'm sorry about that. Sorry, that's me.
So anyone who enjoyed the first beer will probably notice there's a bit of similarity in this beer, in that one of the hops we've used is the same. And it's quite a dominant flavour. So Sabro we've used in this beer again, along with Comet and Mosaic. So Sabro is a little bit of a Marmite hop. Some people love it, some people hate it. Hopefully you guys love it. And even if you don't like it particularly, As long as it's used in the right combination, it can work really well. So both myself and Lee have a Marmite hop that we both don't particularly like, and it's called Sriracha Ace. And this hop does have a lot of similarities to Sriracha Ace.
It's weird though, because most people who don't like Sriracha Ace, which gives a kind of creamy dill type character to a beer, if used in the right way, can apparently do lemon, but I've never got that from it. We absolutely detest. And supposedly, if you don't like Sriracha Ace, there's a high likelihood you're not going to like Sabro. And you kind of like Sabro, you're not a huge fan of Sabro. Whereas I am a huge fan of Sabro, but I really, really detest Sriracha Ace. So I think I'm a bit unique in that regard.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons, if any Brew York followers from the start, it's one of the reasons why one of our main beers, the biggest selling beers, was discontinued. So we used to do a beer called Little Eagle. Little Eagle was a 4.5% session IPA, and one of the main hops in that was Sriracha Ace. We didn't drink it, neither of us really drank that beer. It was developed as a replacement for one of the hops we couldn't get when we started, and it was good. It was a nicer beer, but it wasn't something we loved.
We have always believed that the beers that we produce, we have to be passionate about. They have to be things that we want to drink ourselves. They need to represent us. And neither of us liked that particular hop. And even though at that time it was our best-selling beer, we didn't think it did us justice. We didn't think it represented us in the way that we wanted to be represented. So we killed off our best-selling beer. And not the only time we've done that.
No, we replaced it with Expander, which was the hop change in session IPA, and that beer has now been superseded by Fossa. But it's different as we evolve. There's different, focuses on what people want to buy from us. And yeah, our cask beer has always been something that we love. We like cask beer ourselves. York's a great cask beer market, and these beers we were talking about were cask beers. As we progress as a brewery, most people are focused on more towards our keg beer, so keg and can. So cask beer has been sales have dipped a fair bit, and obviously at the moment during this crisis, we aren't selling cask beer. We're still going to sell cask beer after all this is over. I think you'll probably find it predominantly in York and the surrounding areas, and hopefully it'll still go far afield. But if you guys keep up the demand that you've been putting on our canned beer, we'll struggle to make as much cask beer as we used to. But yeah, we'll always have it, and it'll always be in all our bars, and we'll try and make as much as possible to make sure that it's still available in all your local bars.
So sorry guys, I just had to grab something off camera because I've made a bit of a boo-boo. So in the next section, we're going to talk to you about Untappd, our favourite Untappd feedback, and I'm going to play a little game with Wim. My cheat sheet for this, with the questions on, I put in the sofa in the next section because I thought we were doing this next. So I've just been handed the questions that I was supposed to have at this point. So, love it or hate it, Untappd's a very, very big part of our industry, and as we've said before, there'll be brewers out there that say they don't look and say they don't care. That's crap. Everybody looks. I think as long as you filter out the noise, as long as you filter out the outliers, the best scores and the worst scores, and you look in the middle, I think it is a very good representation of how the general public think about you and how they rate any individual beer. But you do see some pretty out there feedback on it. It can get a little bit weird. I think one of the weirdest things I ever saw, or the thing that I think kind of stepped outside of the boundaries of, well, come on guys, it's only beer, was when we first made Nuva, which was our very first attempt at a New England style IPA, so a hazy, juicy, really soft IPA. And somebody said in their Untappd feedback that we were getting ideas above our station and we should stick to doing normal hoppy beers, as if we had to ask for permission to brew particular styles of beer. And I get that everybody's entitled to their opinion, but not all opinions are correct. So that was just one example of how I thought it was kind of out there. And the really baffling ones are, I don't like dark beers, 1 out of 5. Why did you purchase and drink a dark beer then? Or I don't like sour beers, 0 out of 5. Why have you bought a sour? It's just boggling.
It's a funny one. It's something that we do look at in the background. It's more of a yardstick than something we hang our hat on, but it is interesting just to get feedback. So it's collated feedback in one place. So we get great feedback individually and hearing from our customers, which we really appreciate. But when you see it all collected in one area, it gives you an idea if the beer we've made is heading in the right direction, if the series, so Hoptimist is a series of beers, if we're still hitting the mark with that series. So we started this series a few years ago with Stu from North Riding, brewed a beer called the Hoptimist. Still one of my favourite beers we made. We brought it back as Optimus 2020 this year.
And I think still my favourite in the series.
Still really good. And then we've done all sorts of Optimus Prime.
Eternal Optimist, Optimistic Alley.
Yeah. And then the
Operation Doomsday with Pomona Island. Yeah.
So they basically are stronger, interesting hoppy beers. We do other interesting, strong hoppy beers, but this was just a series we really liked and we wanted to go down. So yeah, keep your eye out for some.
And we'd ordinarily only do 1 or 2 of these a year, but it would seem with all of you lot being confined at home that your need for stronger beer seems to have gone up somewhat. So we've been doing a few more this year.
Yeah, I mean it's when we do come up, well, when Lee in particular comes up with new ideas and recipes that he wants to brew, we've got to kind of weigh up the pros and cons of it. Yes, I'd love to drink an 11% brownie milk stout, but could we sell a full batch of it? Could we sell a full batch of it quickly, or should we be brewing a pale hoppy beer that we know will sell quickly? So sometimes you go weigh up the pros and cons of it, and at the moment, it doesn't seem to matter what the style is. You guys seem to want it usually needs to be strong. Strong and interesting, so that seems to be the theme that we've gone down, as well as trying to keep our core beers ticking over. So
I know there are many challenges to this period, but in some ways I'm really enjoying this because I've kind of had the shackles thrown off. I'm getting to be a little bit more creative than I might otherwise be.
Yeah, going back to one of the earlier questions, how many different beers can we have on the website at once? Well, our core range we've reined in. We've managed to keep it down to a handful of beers, so we've got to keep brewing these interesting seasonal specials, collaborations, one-offs to try and keep that wide variety. So yeah, it's kind of been feeding time to Zoo for Lee in terms of getting to use lots of interesting ideas, recipes, ingredients.
And daft ingredients, yes. So the game I want to play with Wayne here is one thing that frustrates us both, but I think probably frustrates Wayne more than me, is the disconnect that you sometimes get between the comment left on Untappd and the actual score. So this is absolutely amazing, 1 out of 5. We do not know how the scoring system works. So the game I want to play with Wayne is I'm going to read out some comments that have been posted on Untappd, and they're for the beers that we're sampling this evening. And I want you to guess from the comment what the score is. So first up, upstairs we sampled Matthew McConaughaze. And this comment is from a friend of ours, Michael P. Hi Mike. Ultra hazy, ultra hoppy, as big a hop hit as any of the hype breweries. So, does that score 3.75, 4.25 or 4.75?
4.25.
Exactly.
I might have seen that comment.
So he's been pre-screening the comments.
So I'm surprised we've got comments on that beer in particular, given that the only people who had it in advance of today were the guys who bought the tasting packs. You've all been cheating and drinking it.
I wrote this not so long ago. Yeah. Next one word comment. Booyah!
For this beer.
So, no, I'm not going to give you any options. What do you think?
2.5.
Booyah gets you a 4.75, apparently. So the beer we're drinking now, Optimus Prime. Tasty juice, but was expecting bigger. Still not a fan of Sabro led beers.
4.25 or something.
4 out of 5.
What the score was? 4
out of 5. So I mean that reads like whoever this is doesn't like this beer, whereas I would be quite happy with a 4 out of 5. Next one. Not for me, very dank and vegetal. Onion/wild garlic like. I don't mind dank, but this didn't hit the mark.
So that'll be the Sabro, the Sriracha sibling.
So out of 5, what do you think for that one?
3.5.
2.75.
I mean, it matches that one, it does match a comment.
Wow, DIPA. This is as good as it gets. Amazing. This don't taste like no DIPA I've ever had. Top. What do you think?
3.5.
No, I think it was a score.
Oh, right.
I mean, that one would be amazing to get a score for. Surely that's somewhere in the 4 to 5 region. And the beer we're going to be tasting next is Simon Lemon in the next area. And one of my all-time favourite Untappd comments has already come on that beer. I could make some careless memories after drinking this, but it made me hungry like the wolf. The puntastic beer makers of Brew York have become notorious like the wild boys even. Is there something I should know, or should I find my own way? And that was from Ashley K. What do you think that got out of 5?
4.
Yes. 4. Next one, a much shorter review. As stylish as its namesake.
3.
Yeah. 3 out of 5.
I genuinely couldn't see the answers.
And the final one. Sour enough to burn the skin off your eyes. Smiley face. Out of 5, what do you think?
4.
3.75.
Oh,
so pretty close. So we're going to take a few more questions here. Hopefully that was as entertaining to you as it tends to be to us.
While we're taking the questions, we mentioned that we're in our tap room. So the biggest difference between our tap room and our beer hall upstairs is the cask range. So we always have 10 different cask beers on down here, and then 10 keg beer. So it's it feels quite different from when you're drinking upstairs, but in a good way. So you've got kind of quite different zones. And anyone who joined us almost 4 weeks ago when we did our first live tasting. So anyone who joined us 4 weeks ago, we started in the beer garden. So a really, really cool little space overlooking the river. So if you ever do come down, make sure you head out there. It's really nice.
Okay. So first question we have is from both at Jessica Robinson and at Nathan Hyde. How long does it take on average to think of an idea and then have the final product in your hand?
Well, at the moment, about 3 weeks. the restriction is how quickly we can get the cans.
So in terms of producing an actual beer, so from the point at which we brew it to the point at which we package it, an average beer is going to be about 3 weeks. But then preceding that, we've got to design the recipe, we've got to acquire the ingredients, we've got to contact Owen and Katie over at UBD and get them to design the can. So that might take them a week to design that. We're then going to have somebody produce the can. So the combined kind of design and can production period is probably running about 5 weeks right now. Would you say?
Yeah. There's other complications. Well, there's just consideration complications. So we've got to make sure all the ingredients are available. So we have a pretty wide range of ingredients and hops in particular on site at most times. But you'll notice that some of our weird and wacky out there ones tend to have a lot of fruit additions. So sourcing fruit can be, if it's a simple fruit that we use regularly, pretty easy. But if it's guava, for example, but it gets delayed because of coronavirus, it might take us a bit longer to release a guava-based punch.
Yeah, and pineapple puree we're having issues getting at the minute, and that's all down to corona transportation issues. But in terms of general development, so I presume part of your question meant how many iterations of a beer do we go through before we actually release it? Well, that's going to depend on the beer. I think we know enough about what we're doing now that most of them we can go directly onto the big kit, but if we are using one of these new novel ingredients like Wayne refers to, where we're not quite sure about how that flavour is going to come across in the beer, then we're probably going to take ourselves a little bit more time over that one. Okay, you want to read that one? Cool, good question.
So, Matt Barker, will there be more tasting sessions after this one? So, yes, in short, but a bit longer play on that. We don't know what's going on with the when pubs can reopen. If the government told us today that we could reopen pubs in 2 weeks' time, would we be ready? No. So, and would you guys want to come to the pub in 2 weeks' time and still somehow social distance? So we don't really know. The time frames that have been mentioned so far have been early July or early August. We think realistically it's going to be early August. It's very unlikely that bigger venues like ourselves will be open before then, but we'll wait and see. So there's plenty of time between now and then for us to do something like this. And we've also discussed some of the other options. I said it the other day to Sal, my partner. I was explaining to her this concept idea we had, and I said it's like, you know, TGI Fridays, and she was like, "Oh, the restaurant." Well, not quite a restaurant. I was like, "Oh no, it was TFI Friday."
TFI,
yeah.
Chris Evans. Don't forget your toothbrush.
So when we have to, when we open and we still have to social distance, and we can maybe fit half the number of people in these venues, maybe we'll do a live stream with a live audience. So you guys who are lucky enough to make it in can ask us questions in person. People who can't make it in can ask us questions online, and we'll try and keep the thing going. We'll see.
I mean, one of the questions we were asked when we were upstairs is, do we think our business going forward is going to have changed as a result of this impact? And I think that's possibly one of the ways in which it will have changed. These tasting packs seem to be fairly popular. We love doing this kind of social media interaction and fielding your questions. So I would like to hope that, providing you guys have an appetite for it, we will keep doing it.
Yeah, and we've had a few thoughts about other ideas as well going forward. So we'd love to start monthly subscription boxes. So if you guys like our beer and you like to have it regularly, then we'd love you guys to sign up to monthly subscription boxes. And in doing so, maybe we'd do something similar where we talk through at least a couple of the beers with you live, live stream to explain those beers to start the pack off. And then when things get back to some sort of normality, we might not be able to give you 12 different beers each month. So we might have to partner with some breweries that we work really closely with, so you'll have a mixed box. But we've got a few different ideas, and we'd love to hear your ideas and your thoughts on whether you'd be interested in that. So make sure you let us know in the comments, and also via email after this.
Yeah, info@brewyork.co.uk for any suggestions you may have. So next question is from @Tory. What would be your ideal beer food pairing? And if you had to pick your favourite of your own beers, and your what would your most ideal food be to pair with it? I already know the answer to that one.
So many different ones.
I'm going to jump in.
Your favourite beer.
Barrel-aged Empress that we sampled in the last show. So a barrel-aged big dark beer with a big stinky blue cheese. John, who's behind the camera tonight, got us some smoked Stilton ones, which I don't think I've ever seen since. But absolute stunning cheese, and the combination of something as complex and pungent as that with a big sticky dark beer, yeah, I don't think food pairing gets any better than that for me.
No, what we've done a few times at different events we've been pouring at is try and get some cheese, so get hold of it in advance, and then do some put some cheese boards out for people to help themselves to work with our beer. One of the best ones we did was down in London Craft Beer Festival last year. Unfortunately, it's been cancelled like most events this year, so it's just going to be a winter event in November, but it'll still, hopefully we'll be going, it'll still be good. But one of the things that worked really, really well, we were in a really cool vault in August last year.
Well, cool in one sense.
Yeah,
not
cool as it was.
Boiling.
Nice place to go to, but it was so warm. So yeah, it was a really warm vault. And when we got the blue cheese out to do the tasting, it got quite warm and sweaty pretty quick. The cheese, but that works so much better for it because the cheese just melted in your mouth and alongside the Empress Tom Coco.
I mean, we were a super popular vault up until that point, and once you got the cheese out, yeah,
it was really good. So a relatively quick question, or quick, easy one to answer. At Richard Brew, are you going to do Viking again? Yes.
So Rich is a friend of mine. So Rich, yeah, it used to be part of our original core range back in 2016. We decided we've only really got room for one dark beer in our core range, and everybody loves Tom Coco, so that kind of took its place in the core range. So we now do it as a seasonal release. It's very much a beer that suits sitting by the fire in winter. Yeah. So we'll see that one back again for Christmas, I think.
Yeah, so we've done a couple of other dark beers that are occasional releases. So the Untappd Blazing Sandals was a similar style. We brought out Applewood Smoked Viking DNA at Christmas.
The one we discussed upstairs, Up in Smoke, was similar in style. It's kind of like Viking with maple.
Yes, Up in Smoke's a really cool beer, but I can't wait because we actually do have some cask versions of it. So when we do reopen, we want to taste it in cask. It'll be really cool. So another relatively quick answer. So at Russell Taylor, are the beers in the packs pasteurised? No. So we don't pasteurize our beer. All our beer is unfiltered. Most of it, 99% of it's unfined. We do use some finings in cask beer, and then occasionally in some of the keg beer, but we don't ever pasteurize.
Yeah, so pasteurization is high temperature heat treatment of your beer to kill any microbial content. So yeah, that's going to help the shelf life of your beer. It's going to make sure it never ever gains an infection. What it's not going to do is help the quality of your beer. So for those of us that consider ourselves craft brewers, pasteurization is not really a concept you consider. That's more big brew where they just need to get on the shelves as quickly as they can and don't want to worry about that kind of headache. Mm-hmm. So at Mark G, what yeast do you use for a 3-week turnaround? Oh, okay, quite technical now. So we don't use any one particular yeast. The yeast that we use is going to be dependent on the style. A lot of what we produce, however, is American styles where the hop character is the thing that we need to be most prominent. So we use a more neutral yeast, something like US 05, although referencing back earlier, super impressed with the Verdant IPA yeast that we've just trialled. We will definitely be using that a lot more going forward. And based on those 2 beers that we've done it with, a 3-week turnaround on those beers shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Although the more hops you use, the more you want to leave it for some of that hop burn. That's that kind of residual dryness that hurts on the back of the throat. That needs to clear. You just need to give the beer some time. So you're probably looking more like 4 or 5 weeks for heavily hop beers.
Yeah, so the question I'm guessing is coming from a homebrew scale. So one of the biggest differences between going from homebrewing to commercial brewing is in particular the temperature control of your fermenters. So keeping your fermentation temperature profile under control, and most of the, especially some of our cask beers, they'll fully ferment in less than a week. So it doesn't take long, and in particular the yeast strain we used recently, which we're using again, the Kvik yeast strain, that's
Kvik Voss,
super fast.
I mean, that's a yeast that likes to be abused.
That'd be a good homebrewing yeast because you don't need to worry about the temperature. It's really, really quick. So it just basically whack it outside.
And much easier to get your hands on these days. So if you haven't brewed with Kvik Voss yeast or any of the kind of Kvik type yeast, I recommend doing it because it will see out a fermentation in about 2 days. You can have it at a temperature up to about 35, 40 degrees. It's not going to generate nasty fusel alcohols, which give you really bad headaches. It's not going to generate really nasty flavours. It's just a really weird yeast that doesn't matter what you do to it, it just does nice things.
Mm. So J Roberts 25, can you tell us about how a Collab brew comes about? Relationships usually. So usually if we've met someone from another brewery we get on well with, or we've tried a beer that we really like and the guys have got in touch and we try and do something together. So we've actually we're trying to work out the ins and outs of how to do this, but there's a really cool brewery out there called Alpha Delta Brewery. So we've known Rossi since we started. He came and dropped some samples off at the brewery years ago. He's got 2 breweries, so Box Social and Alpha Delta. So we did a collab at Box Social a year ago, which is
sour black,
pretty crazy. And then we've started a conversation about how we're going to do something during these social distancing times to try and do another collab at the moment. So hopefully we'll get that progressed quickly and we'll get a beer out to you guys in the next month or 2.
So I've just poured the second can for myself and Wayne there because seems we've got quite a few questions still to get through. So moving on swiftly. So after Alistair Ross, what's the worst ingredient you've decided to brew with? Good question. Well, I've made them. You tell me which you think is the worst one.
It's not as bad, but I find it quite overpowering. I find lemongrass quite intense, and you like lemongrass a lot, don't you? So it can dominate in a beer, but it does work really well in a beer. It's just I think it can.
Yeah, I think for certain things like Wayne referenced with the Sabro and here with the lemongrass, it's about balance. And I think with our last use of lemongrass, I probably went a little too far. I think that should have been dialed down a little bit, and that was the sour that we did with Top Row from over Liverpool. Yeah.
So everyone's palates are completely different, which makes this really unique. So one of the beers that I really wasn't that keen on was the sour one that Alison loves.
Oh, the tamarind and lemongrass sour. I love that one. Yeah, tamarindo.
So tamarind for me, again, is quite an intense flavour that I'm not massively keen on, but Lee and Alison absolutely love that beer, so it depends depends what your palate's like, really, but they do work, so...
I can't think of anything off the top of my head.
The only other one for me was the Sigrid Saga.
I was thinking about that one. So Sigrid Saga was done to the style of I can't remember the name of it now, it's a Finnish traditional style, Sati. And you are supposed to filter the grain bed through branches of juniper. So I did it kind of inverted, where I put branches of juniper on top of the grains, the mash, and then we filtered the water through that. And yeah, I've got to admit, it wasn't our finest work.
It was interesting, and some people absolutely loved it, but yeah, it was...
I think there are reasons certain styles have been confined to history.
Yeah. So another one from J Roberts 25, on a collab, who decides on what to brew and how much input does both sides have? So usually, there's no fixed and fast rule about this, but usually the home brewery takes the lead. So in terms of, we've got a gap in our brew schedule, we've already got a sour, we've already got a dark out at the moment, so we really want to do one of these styles. That's the usual way.
Well, I think the best ones are the ones where there's a lot of input from both sides, where you're really talking about it, and yes, it's done through email, and emails go back and forth, like I was doing with Rune across in Denmark when we worked recently with people like us. We communicated back and forward for, I don't know, probably an entire month, God knows how many emails leading up to the production of that particular beer. And for me, they make the best collabs, because you've kind of developed a relationship up until the point at which you brew it on the brew day, and then you all care a little bit more about it. So for me, they make the best collabs. The worst, and I can't name names here, are the ones where we'd like to brew with you, we've got this concept in mind, it's going to be this strong, and we're going to call it this. Yeah. It's like, well, why do you need our input then? You're going to brew a beer that you want to put our name on. Is that a collab? A collab, even? It's a good beer, this.
I'm sorry, guys. It's not a dig at our sales team, but sometimes it does happen. When the sales reps get out drinking together with different breweries, and they're like, oh, I've got this great idea. And before you know it, there's a collab formed and no real input into it. And yeah, they're not the best ones, because yeah, we do have to sell the beer, but we need to enjoy the beer, we need to believe in what we've made, and we need to be proud of it. So it's better if we all get on board from day one.
So I know someone who's going to like this next question. So from @William Noston, apologies if I got that wrong. Who does the can art? It's consistently amazing. So shout out once again to United by Design, UBD, Owen and Katie, who do the artwork. They are a small studio the other side of the city to us. I think they employ maybe 5-6 people, but it means we get a very, very personal service from them, and we've always been super, super happy with what they've done for us.
Yeah, definitely. Got another one here from J Roberts 25. Who is your favourite people to brew with, and any funny stories from any of them? So we've probably both got our own ones, but I'll start with my favourite. So some of my favourite people in brewing full stop are the guys at Fierce up in Aberdeen. So we've met them years ago at a beer festival, and they've got on brilliantly since then. So we kind of did a bit of a road trip, and quite a few of us, unfortunately you couldn't make it at that time.
No, not that time. No.
So we got an Airbnb, and about 5 of us went up to Aberdeen for 4 or 5 days, I can't remember now. So it was just a brilliant trip. We just had a laugh every day. We went to different places. Dave and Louise in particular took us out and showed us the city, and we brewed really, really cool beer. We brewed Very Big Moose Tonka. So a great beer with them. And
from what I hear, one of our brewers that went up with you, Matt, wasn't sober for about over 100 hours.
So it was like I said, it was an Airbnb, and there was a lot of us, which included double beds, sharing double beds and all sorts.
Oh dear.
I had the sofa bed, which was covered in tea bags by the end of the trip. But it was when we were getting up to get showered to go to the brewery to start the collab, and Matt was lying in bed with a can of beer at 8 in the morning. It was just the guys at Fierce made sure we kept a can of beer in our hand.
The lads are professional / animal.
Yeah, it was a brilliant trip, and yeah, they came down here. We had a great time down here as well. So we've done lots of stuff.
So I think, as we were, the ones that are the most fun to do are the ones where you've struck up really great relationships. And I love brewing with the guys from Wild Weather. I think Ian is an absolute nutcase. He's the sales guy at Wild Weather. But whenever you are with that guy, it's just non-stop entertainment. I remember rocking up there to brew the last beer that we brewed with him. I got out my car. I hadn't even got across the car park, and he'd already put a double IPA in my hand. This must be, I don't know, 8 o'clock in the morning. About 2 hours after that, he's like, brewery challenge. Eat this. He puts this little drop of something on a spoon and he makes me consume it. Turns out it's the world's hottest chili liquid that's been manufactured, and there's over 1.5 million Scovilles. So he did that to me and Andy Waters, our events manager, who was with us that day, and we were in absolute agony. I don't think I've ever known pain like it. I had to consume various lactose-containing sours to try and kind of reduce the heat in my mouth. But all of that said, he is about the biggest party animal I know in our industry, and any day spent with him is a good time.
Cool, so we're going to go to another area. We've still got some more questions which we'll pick up in the next place, and it's probably a good time for a toilet stop en route.
Right, well you can do that and I'll leave the toilet. Yeah, I feel like Right, so follow me guys. Oh, your microphone's falling off. So as Wayne was saying, we have a riverside beer garden here. So we have a slight detour, let's have a little nosing for those of you that haven't seen it. So if you haven't visited us, you really should come down once we're obviously able to open the doors again. So this is our riverside beer garden. That is Roundtree Wharf. Over there, that's an iconic building in York's chocolate history, owned by Rowntree's, who obviously eventually got taken over by Nestle. And that wind chute there is where they would have unloaded the cocoa beans and various other raw ingredients from which Rowntree's Nestle made their chocolate. Okay. Then if you want to follow me this way, we're going to go up over our mezzanine where we store all of our malt and across to the brewing area. So here we've got some nice branding concealing some stuff that we haven't tidied, so this is easy. And hopefully my underwear isn't showing like last time, because my wife told me off for that last time. So this is our mezzanine. I've always enjoyed the view from up here because you can see down into all the vessels, the tap room. See here the grist case, which is loaded up with that's tomorrow's first brew in there. This is tomorrow's second brew, lined up here. On average, we have about 30 different malts from probably about 10 different countries up here.
And at the moment, lots of cardboard boxes.
Yes.
So we just put another order in today for mail order boxes. Our suppliers can't believe the volume you guys are buying off us at the moment. How much cardboard we're going through. So anyone who joined us last time, I explained these are our conditioning tanks. The beer goes into these, usually after primary fermentation. We have the little stout tank here. So it's not for stout, so just means it's short and fat. It's a bright beer tank for carbonating beer. Canning line on the right hand side. A little bit of a mess in there because we moved everything in there so we can get into the brewing area. And then yeah, enjoy this. Alongside our main Simon.
Nice. So next up we have this. Simon Le Mans, so it's a 3.8% lemon sherbet sour. I actually think it's a little bit more than a lemon sherbet sour. It's both like the retro sweet that we remember, the lemon sherbet. But I think this version, more so than the last version, is also a bit like traditional lemonade.
Yeah.
So I think it sits somewhere between lemon sherbet and traditional lemonade. Thank you very much.
I'm not kidding anyone. We're not sharing a can of this one.
Yeah, this one's super smashable, especially for a sour. So the first time we brewed this was for last year's London Craft Beer Festival. It was part of the dual launch. We launched both this and Katy Berry, which was a blueberry pastry sour with lots of blueberry, lots of vanilla. And they were launched at the same time, and both of those were put into the slushy machine that we mentioned before to make a kind of, almost like a lemon sorbet, like beautiful pastry blueberry slushy. And I think there was maybe, how many sessions? 2 a day for 2 days?
3 days.
3 days?
Yeah.
And we probably sold out of the slushies in the first half hour of every session.
Yeah.
We just could not keep up with the demand for them. But if you do happen to encounter us at one of these major events, you may be lucky enough to have one of these beers put into the slushy machine.
So one of the ways of generating name ideas that we come up with the brewery is we have a messaging app at work, and we have a name suggestion forum. And if anyone comes up with a name that we use, they get a free case of beer to once we launch it, and they get the prestige of showing off their artwork. So this beer was actually named by our social media coordinator, Ant. So Ant came up with the name, and I'm sure he smashed a whole 12-pack of this in about probably an hour now,
if not less. And hopefully I gave a nod to Jack, who named Matthew McConaughaze. I think I did earlier. So I don't know if he's claimed his case of that. You'll have to get in quick, because I think it's almost sold out.
We'll have to.
So interestingly, when we were at London Craft Beer Festival, unbeknownst to us, some of our best beery pals who are Brewery, they employ a lady called Tallulah. Tallulah's second name is Le Bon, as in she is the daughter of Simon Le Bon. We didn't know this. She happened to be working there doing events for Brick, and she came across, she saw this, and she was like, no way. Got a photo taken with the artwork. She took away a couple of the beers, she gave them to Simon, who then retweeted about having drank this beer, which was a super special moment for us.
Yeah, it's really cool. This is one of my favourite beers we've brought out recently. Just so refreshing. I'm a big fan of sours. Most of us in the brewery love sour beers, hence why we brew quite a few of them. But this, for me, it's less than 4%. It's really easy drinking. It's refreshing. When the weather's nice like it's been today, it's such a cracking beer. So when you're in isolation at home or in your garden, get outside, drink a can of this. You can't go wrong with that.
So I don't know if you guys are picking up the background noise. You might be hearing one or two things. You might be hearing some kind of bubbling. So that'll be some things fermenting. I don't know if you can see this next to me. The bubbles go through some acid. And every once in a while, our process chiller that chills the glycol that goes around our vessels is going to kick in. So you may also pick up that background noise. So we thought now might be a good time to talk about the other beers that you've got in the box.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We put an 11-pack together to you, so we can leave a bit of space for the snacks. But you've got some really cool other beers in there. So
we're chilling out now.
Yeah, I feel a bit uncomfortable perching on the front. So yeah, you've got some pretty cool beers. We've got our one of our biggest selling beers at the moment. It's again another one that's great for this weather. Juice Forsyth. So Juice Forsyth is a tropical fruit IPA. Really easy drinking, 5%. It tastes like what's that mango?
Rio or Umbongo?
Yeah, it's like a Umbongo in a can. It's really good. It's a super accessible version of one of our favourites, Expander. Yeah. 6.5%. That one would have been. So this is the toned down version, super accessible. You've then got a couple.
Sorry, before you go. If you're not already on our Instagram feed, check it out.
Yeah,
John and Alison have done a super cool video. So at the end of our canning line, we have this little roller thing that takes the can boxes down to the pallets, and they did a kind of generation game thing with cuddly toy and various different things, and then at the end you saw the Juice Forsyth can going along.
Yeah,
so pretty cool video, so impressive work from those guys.
So also in the box you've got some free pale ales, relatively easy going. So we've got Turtle Eclipse, 4.2%. Pale ale we brewed for charity, so can't remember how much it is. Every can goes to charity.
Incorrect, we forgot these.
We've got Karma Chameleon, one of our core APAs. It's the lowest strength can beer we produce all the time, 3.9%.
Yep.
Then we've got Gallagher. So Gallagher's 4.7% American Pale Ale. Nice, easy going. Get it while you can. We've got one more batch of this coming out, and then we're going to be changing up our core American Pale Ale, our House 8 Pale Ale. We can't go into too much detail about why we're changing it, but yeah, you won't be able to get Gallagher much longer.
Yeah. So the recipe may live on, the name and the design can't.
Yeah.
I don't think we can be any clearer than that.
Yeah. And then, what else can we say? But we have to put rhubarb in the pack. You guys love it. We sell so much of that there. So rhubarb Streisand are 5.5% rhubarb and custard pale ale. Yeah, like the sweets. It's sorry, not the custard version, but you still get a bit of custard flavour from.
Well, I think both taste like the rhubarb and custard sweets. Just one slightly more than the other. And then also in the pack, I mean, for me, it was a toss-up between including this beer, Simon Lemon as part of the core lineup, or including Che Guava Cava, which is a guava and vanilla pastry sour. I know we shouldn't blow our own trumpet, but my God, that beer's tasting good.
It's a pretty cool beer. And a hands up apologies to Williams Brothers up in Scotland. We dropped the ball here and we brewed a beer that, with a name that they've already used. So we may rebrew this beer under a different name going forwards, but we can't call it Che Guava. So
it's a bit of a theme.
Sorry guys. One of the things is we talked about all the different new beers we're coming up with at the moment. We're trying to keep you guys happy, trying to keep lots of beers out there, and yeah, we're going to have to sharpen up our diligence and making sure we get back to the routine of making sure these names haven't been used, because it's not good to step on other people's toes. We don't intentionally do it, so we wouldn't like it.
Sorry, it was me, culpa.
So yeah, that will be changing.
And then I think the final one we've not talked about is Up in Smoke.
Yeah, so Up in Smoke, we mentioned it upstairs. It's the mesquite barbecue smoked porter with maple. So pretty interesting food.
So mesquite isn't so much known here, but if you've ever eaten barbecue food in the US, that's the wood that they throw on with the charcoal to impart some really interesting character into the meat. So yeah, it's mesquite smoked and maple. So as you'll have seen, myself and Wayne are now cracking into our serious big snacking pixels, which go beautifully with this particular sour. So if you have managed to resist until this point, I suggest you crack them open now and have a little taste along with this beer.
Does anyone notice these double parked? I think you should see one of them off.
Slightly different.
I'm only kidding. Doesn't take much encouragement. Yeah, so lots of different beers to enjoy. We don't recommend doing them all in one night, but
maybe like 1.5.
Yeah, there's some pretty good cool ones. I think we're going to answer a few more questions.
So we're just waiting for the magic little hand to come in.
So one of the things you may have wondered is what makes the beer like Simon Lemon sour. So in the last tasting session we did, we explained a little bit about the souring process. We brew something called a kettle sour. So there's different ways of souring beers. Kettle sour is the approach we use, which means we're not bringing anything into the brewery which may infect other beers. So we brew the beer through the normal process. I won't go into details of the normal brewing process on this, but what I will say is that when it gets to the kettle, instead of boiling the beer and transferring it across to our fermenter, we basically boil it, cool it down, and then we introduce a bacteria which helps the beer. And we leave it overnight to maintain a temperature, and then we boil it to kill off the bacteria and transfer it. So we can tell you a lot more about that, and in another format, probably one that will keep you guys a bit more interested. So.
I could bore you to death on the sours, but that's probably more than we need to do for this session. So next question from Mark Lambert. Have you ever had a beer idea which on paper sounded amazing, but when you made was nowhere near what you thought it would be? So I think we've answered this question before, not today. The one that always springs to mind for me is if you like pina coladas.
I
like that bit. Yeah, so that was a pina colada.
I didn't like that bit. I love a pina colada. When I go on holiday, I don't care what time of day it is. It might be 8 o'clock in the morning. The first drink I'm going to have is a pina colada because then I know I'm on holiday.
What's the difference about pina colada and what in the rain?
If you like pina coladas.
I can't remember.
That's, yeah.
That's on screen. What the next
but
one?
I think the concept was much better than the kind of application.
I think a lot of people really like that beer as well, but when we were out at festivals and events pouring it, the one beer that I hated was the spin-off from that. So we split that beer into
Waikiki.
two. We made Waikiki, which was supposed to be
Hawaiian blue
Curacao inspired beer, and it went green. It looked, excuse the phrase, it looked horrible. And unfortunately, because it looked horrible, we should have just launched it as a St. Patrick's Day beer or something, because if it was green, people loved the gimmicky factor.
But one man's poison is another man's pleasure.
Yeah, exactly.
So we don't like sriracha's containing beers, other people love them. I didn't like pina coladas, they sold well enough.
Yeah, people like that one. A similar one, at Norwich Stout drinker, what unusual flavours have considered for quirky beers? How about a tomato sour or cheese in a stout?
Wow. I like to think we go outside the box, but even for me, that might be a little too far outside the box.
We may do them on our pilot kit and serve them in our tap room exclusively, rather than go big on those ones.
Although, even as unusual as you probably tried to be there, both of those things have been done. But you can buy something called a pizza beer that has both the flavours of tomato and cheese and oregano. So we wouldn't even be the first to that party.
No, exactly. And quite apt for the snack we've got at the moment. We have a friend called Travis from Texas in America who comes to visit us. Well, I don't think he'll be visiting this year, but he usually comes across once a year and brings us some really cool and wacky beer. We do a beer tasting club. And he brought us a beer called, well...
You'll have to forgive our French when we name this one.
Because it isn't a name, but it's called Pickle Fucker. And it's a beer which it tastes like pickle juice. It is weird. It's like drinking the remnants of a jar of pickles.
I mean, I want to call it Marmite, but Marmite implies 50-50. I think it's 10% for, 90% against that with that one. He loved it, but for me it was a truly atrocious beer.
Yeah,
so Nathan Hyde, what's your process for creating so many different varieties of beer? How do you produce and test a new kind of beer before making an end product?
Yeah, so we've got a pilot kit which is, 20%, if a little bit less than that, 20% of the size of our main kit. So the theory is we brew a beer on the pilot kit, we test it out, we can serve it in the taproom and beer hall, we can gain feedback, tweak the recipe, and brew it on the bigger kit. Our big kit isn't that big, so the kit behind me on my right now is 10 UK Brewers barrels. So if we brew a batch of beer on this, it's not that much beer really. So we don't use the pilot kit that much. It's, if Lee was going to go completely out there with a style, we'd probably do it on the pilot kit, but we kind of stick to some base things that are similar, and then we'll maybe experiment every now and then.
So we have the pilot kit in part because we have the bars, and it's something that we wanted our brewers to be able to use, and the guidance that I gave them was, I want you to be brave and think outside the box and produce beers on that pilot kit that we would not be brave enough to do directly on this kit here. And then we'll serve them in the bars here, and if you guys, the people who come and drink here, like those particular beers, then we would brew them on the bigger scale. But for us, to do the pilot kit now, it has to be something that we're really unsure of to consider doing it in that way.
So some of the more simple things, you get, if you understand hops, you understand what hop flavours you like, it's a case of taking the base beer and then changing the hop combos and making something that could be really interesting. If it's fruit, then we do need to be a bit more creative and test things out. It's quite difficult because if you brewed a beer with fruit additions and you used puree instead of concentrate, they taste completely different. And you think, well, if you know that puree tastes better, then just use puree. It's not the case. Puree tastes better in some beers, concentrate tastes better in other beers, and then actual fruit additions taste better in other beers, but actual peeling and crushing fruit and putting it in is just not very practical and getting it back out. So
I think it's always an interesting point of debate. Because everybody's looking for new now. Everybody wants the next thing. Everybody wants the new thing. And is the new thing going to be DIPA? Is it going to be punk? Well, yes and no. You might get lucky and you might do a really, really good recipe at your first attempt. But beers like DIPA, beers like punk are what they are because what you are drinking is not the first iteration of that beer. That has been refined over time. So beers that are established in core ranges, for that reason in theory, should be better than the things that you're knocking out as the one-offs. But sometimes you just come up with a wacky and weird enough concept that just works.
Yeah, thankfully we not. Don't get me wrong. I'm the accountant in the business. I do put a little bit of pressure on Lee to try and make sure we don't go overboard with some things, and then relax a bit about other beers. But we're never going to get to a position where we've got our core beer like Jarsa, and I'm just putting pressure on Lee to make sure he can just make it as cheaply as possible and completely change the beer. There are breweries out there, some of which inspired us to make beer in the first place, and the beer tastes completely different to what now was to what it did originally. And a lot of that's because they've got bigger and there's pressures on the finances. You've got to still stick to what you believe in and make sure the beer tastes as good today as it did, if not better today than it did when we started.
Yeah, I think the bigger you get, the higher the bar goes, the more the expectation becomes. Things that would be forgiven in the early days, you don't get forgiven now.
No, exactly.
So you're always going to have to keep raising your quality, always keep raising that bar.
And maybe we're naive, I don't know, but if ingredients cost goes up and we have to spend more to make that beer, we hope the consumer, you guys, would be willing to pay slightly more for that beer if the price of the stuff that goes into it goes up. We're not aiming for the lowest common denominator. We're not trying to make lager. We're not lager. Lager is a quality crafted product, but we're not trying to brew beer as cheap as possible. We're trying to make beer that we love to drink. So hopefully you guys do as well.
I know. Let's see if we can smash through a few more a little quicker.
Put in a few more beers.
Well, that too. So at Matt Barker, I think is probably our most prolific question asker this evening. What do you guys have planned for tomorrow's brews? Well, it's actually it's one brew. It's two of the same thing going into one of these larger vessels to my left here. It's a new gluten-free beer which we're calling.
Are you going to give that away?
Yeah. Well, we're going to say it next in the upcoming beers.
Well, so I think one of our members of the team is watching today. It was Sam's birthday at the weekend, so I gave her a bit of a spoiler and told her what the name of the beer was going to be because she came up with it.
And it's going to be called Olivia Gluten Gone. So it has Olivia Newton-John in full pink lady get-up on the front of the can.
And by the name, you might have guessed it's a gluten-free beer. So it's a 5% gluten-free American Pale Ale. So yeah, trying to get through them a bit quicker. Joe Burnside, would you ever do a beer to mix like the evil twins yin and yang?
Yes. Right, next question.
Yeah, it's finding the packaging practicalities, but yeah, we definitely do it. One of the things we did, we've done a beer to mix. We released the 4-pack Empress Tom Coco Bourbon Barrel Age editions. We encourage people to mix them. They're pretty premium products in big measures. So we maybe didn't mix them as much as we maybe do in the future, but
we crack into 2 440ml cans open, or 10.6%.
I'll drink that.
And we know Tiny Rebel did it for their birthday beer box this year, last year, I get confused now.
This year.
Was it this year? So it probably looked like we were jumping on their bandwagon a little bit quicker. We did that too soon. So give us another year, and maybe that's something we'll look at doing. Yarno. So we employ a brewer called Yarno. I'm presuming this is not too many people out there called Yarno. So hi Yarno, how you doing, mate? What was your business model for Brew York when you first started to make it as far as you have and further?
So in reality, it goes back to a few simple principles that we wanted to come up with. So Field of Dream styles. We wanted a location that we knew people would come to. We wanted a packaging that made people pick it up. We wanted beer that was ultimately good, but having good beer doesn't matter if people don't pick up your beer or try your beer. So we wanted all those different things to work well. and that's kind of what we set out to do, and I think it's worked quite well.
Yeah, but Field of Dreams, Wayne's World, build it and they will come.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that was ultimately what it was, and we think it's been pretty busy. Between the two of us, we probably managed about 2 weeks holiday in 4 years. So we do like to.
But we're big believers in do what you're passionate about. Produce what you want to drink. Build venues you want to drink in.
Yeah, 100%. You spend your life working. So if you do something you're passionate about, and it doesn't feel like work, and if you're doing something that doesn't feel like work, then hopefully you'll be good at it because you're enjoying doing it. So yeah, it kind of all goes hand in hand.
No disrespect, guys. We haven't exactly brewed a beer with you in mind. We haven't exactly created a venue with you in mind. We've created what we wanted to enjoy, and we just hope that some of you out there also would enjoy it.
Yeah, I've read quite a few different things from American craft breweries before we started this, and that was one of the best bits I read. So Greg Koch Kosh, I think it's pronounced, from Stone Brewery, he said something along the lines of, I don't care what you guys think, I'm brewing beer that I want to drink. And I've probably completely misquoted him, but the ethos is the same. It's like we don't take that approach. We do care what you guys think. We want to brew beer that you guys love, but ultimately the starting point is: do we think this beer is a good beer? Do we enjoy it? Would it be something we want to drink? And we hope you guys will like it as well. And the venues at York's an amazing city for drinking beer, but there was something missing. There was something different that we felt that if we built something like that, it'd be really cool. And thankfully, you guys have felt the same.
Very much 4 years ago when we brought this to York, it was, well, no one else is doing it, and that's what we want. Maybe we should be the ones doing it.
Yeah, definitely. So I've got one from that Joe Burnside. Have you done a beer I may have missed with Black Metal Brewery?
No.
No.
I think I would remember.
I knew we ended up with Brew. I just know if the black metal thing was something that you may want to answer that I didn't know.
If they're called black metal because they are into that kind of music, it sounds like the kind of brewery I may want to work with. But no, we haven't as yet. At Derek Carswell, are there any plans to host another crowdfunding venture to support your business?
Ooh, interesting. We can't go into too much detail on that right now, but we are looking to expand. We'll tell you more when we know more.
So
possibly?
Never say never. At Joanna Rowling, brackets mum.
Grandma.
Any plans for a brew celebrating English hops? I'm going to duck out to Lou at that point because I'd probably best not talk on this subject.
Yeah, so unfortunately, English hops aren't something that we've particularly got a taste for. Like we said earlier, the big part of what we do is we're brewing beers that, as a starting point, we want to drink and we want to talk to people about, share about. English hops don't really do it for us, so it's probably not something we're going to do anytime soon, unfortunately. Feel a bit abandoned without any questions. There must be some more. Sorry, there's a question coming. Just read it out. So next question, at Peter Wright. Will we ever see a Brew York and Brewdog collaboration? I don't know. So we've worked with Brewdog a couple of times, Brewdog bars. So we've done Brewdog Collab Fest 3 separate years, and we've brewed beers that we really like on all those occasions. So the second year we brewed a beer called Goose Willis. You may recognise that name because we now brew it. It's one of our core sours. So that beer worked really well for us. We then brewed a beer this year called Tonk Oatco, which is a vegan-friendly version of Tonk Oatco. So that beer worked really well. And the Collab Fest Untappd charts, we finished about 4th at the time of the event. Randomly someone logged on the other day and turns out we're currently sitting in 2nd place in that chart, which is a nice thing to see. Because people like the beer we made, and one of the prizes you get for doing something well with Collab Fest is you get a chance to brew a brew. So I don't know, watch this space. We may do, we may not. We'll see. They were one of the breweries that inspired us to get to where we are now. But they're also quite a big brewery, so they've got other things on their mind.
Oh yeah, I just read that question. My short answer on that is, if they ask, yes.
Yeah. So got one here from Lewis King. Have you had any collaborations with Amundsen?
Yes, we did a beer called Espresso Patronum that I think came in about 12%, which was coffee, chocolate, milk stout. Very highly rated.
Really popular. We get a lot of requests to brew it again.
We've been invited over to Norway to brew with them, but obviously a little hard to do that right now.
Yeah, so hopefully we'll do one soon. Yeah, I'll leave that question with you while I
So at Melissa Reed. Hi Melissa. Melissa's one of the leading members of our local Canberra branch. She's posed the question, do you think that pubs will need to increase prices to manage with social distancing and lower capacity? If so, do you think consumers will accept if prices will go back when capacity returns? Yeah, it's a very interesting question. A lot of us are scratching our heads about right now, Melissa. I'm hoping we don't have to increase prices. Unfortunately, the beer hospitality industry is not a thing that runs on massive margins. So us increasing our prices, it's not a conversation we've had today, but I can't say that others aren't having that conversation. We know, at least at the very early point of reopening, we are going to have to run at a reduced capacity. If we follow the American model, we're probably going to have about 25% capacity. So that's 25% of the money coming through the tills. We potentially have the additional labour cost of having to have someone standing at the door managing numbers, probably allocating people to tables, etc. And some of that can be kind of negated through technology. So we're having an app developed to manage people's orders. Hopefully it will help us manage any table allocation, but only that can only go so far. So I would say at this point in time, so there's too many unknowns. So it's hard to say. I think we have a very big venue, so for us it will be easier to segregate separate areas and still have a reasonable amount of people in the building. The people I kind of feel for right now is where they have really small venues and they're going to struggle to kind of keep the coffers going. So for the likes of us with the higher capacity and you can segment off different areas, yes, things are going to change, it's going to be challenging, but I think those that have smaller venues are the ones that are going to struggle the most. So we're now going to move into our final area and consume our final beer, which for reasons we're about to disclose, I'm not allowed to say the name of. So if you want to follow me this way. So we're now going into what is ordinarily our craft store. You would usually see a hell of a lot more beer in here than there is currently in here. And it's also our barrel store. And you'll see a selection of some of the barrels that we currently have here now.
This is relatively apt in that it's the first time we've decided to do a live tasting within a week of launching a beer, and we actually can't use the name anymore. Or the image.
Look at the de-anonymised cans.
So hopefully you've realised what we are drinking now. It is the peanut, caramel and marshmallow milk stout that's 10%. The artist formerly known, we'll call it HYG for short. We can't talk much about it, but yeah, we sometimes we do take it a little bit too close to the mark, and unfortunately we did on this one. So you probably, it's just a shame because it's a cracking beer and it's doing phenomenally well on ratings.
A cracking beer, I think, with some of the best artwork we've seen put on one of our cans.
Yeah, so you won't see the artwork again. You will definitely see the beer again because we've got some of it in one of these barrels. So we're going to do a barrel aged version, but it's not going to be cool. What did you say we're going to call it?
The beer that shall not be named.
Yeah.
But perhaps, or HYG I think we'll probably stick with, just so it's a little clearer as to what its origins were.
Yeah, so someone asked us a question in the last area about brewing beer with Amundsen. Massive influence on some of the beer styles we're coming up with at the moment. Pastry stouts, pastry sours, those guys are awesome at it. Jeff and the team are such cool people as well, and got us in a lot of trouble from making us drink his dick. Sorry, dick.
Which is what they call
dessert
in a can.
Sorry, I should have clarified that. So yeah, so if you've ever had the Amundsen, well, there's all sorts of them, but the one that stands out for me is the Zygo. So,
Is that the cookie one?
Yeah, so Zygo, they call that their range of beers, their Imperial stouts, which have different dessert style flavours, dessert in a can. So hence the IC dick. So this is massively influenced by that.
Yeah.
So,
but also a little bit of is it the peanut butter one, the Yellow Belly, is it?
Yeah, God. Yellow Belly's an awesome beer. So you might have seen the chocolate bar that we happen to have on, or candy bar that we happen to have on the table. So this candy bar is bursting with peanuts, caramel, chewy nougat. Yeah. So marshmallow.
We went for marshmallow instead of nougat.
So this is it's basically a 10.6% milk stout. So we do make a lot of milk stouts, Imperial ones in particular. We tend to you guys tend to like them, so we brew quite a few of them. The people ask why we use lactose. The lactose in the beer gives you the creaminess, it gives you residual sweetness because lactose doesn't ferment, unlike other sugars. And it balances off some of the stronger flavours. So these 10+% beers with a little bit of lactose, it takes some of the harshness away from the alcohol strength. So if you smell it, the nose on this is pretty intense. We've got all the different flavours, peanut, caramel, marshmallow coming through.
I think it's changed a bit since the first time I drank it. I think the first time I drank it, it was definitely more peanut. But now it's really the raspberry kind of marshmallow character leading out.
Yeah, you definitely get that raspberry taste coming through. So it's one of my favourite dark beers we've released recently. We've got, unfortunately, if you didn't buy one, so if you've obviously got one in the pack, but if you didn't buy one outside of this, then you're going to be hard pressed to find it. It's one of our quickest selling beers, and we only produce a really small amount of it.
So all of it was gone inside a week, but there will be some places out there that still have it available, and those barrels directly over Wayne's right shoulder contain some of this beer that will be released under a different name in about a year's time. Yeah,
it's going to be a pretty intense one. We've talked about Untappd earlier. It's had a lot of check-ins relatively quickly. So in the week or so it's been live, it had 250 check-ins. It's not a lot, but it's enough.
Enough to get it up to 15th in the UK produced MP Stout chart.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool. Hopefully you like it. You get, like we said, the marshmallow and peanut coming through. It's quite. You see when you swill your glass, you get a lot of the legs running down the glass. Yeah. So, like with red wine, you get quite a bit of body. And
yeah, we're definitely legsmen, aren't we?
So speaking of which, Lee's wife arrived in the background. You probably
which
can't
is why
see.
I made that comment.
But the reason I brought it up was because I wanted you to tell the story about 4 cans. What? Sorry, 4 cans of here you go. Oh, sorry, HYG.
Yeah, not that. Oh yeah, well I suppose now my wife has walked in the room. She had 4 cans of this the other day, and after the 4th can went into the kitchen and eventually realised what she'd been drinking and went, "Why didn't you tell me it was 10%? She said that in a much more slurred fashion than I've just done.
And sorry for, I think I've referred to it as 10.6 on 2 occasions now. It's a 10% beer.
Which is because I've once again misled him. We have a couple of prompts off camera here, and for all it says 10% there, for some reason I've written 10.6 over there.
Just to confuse me. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Go on then, let's do some truffles and see what the pairing.
Don't shuffle them though.
Do a shuffle on camera.
Thank you.
So you're not a huge fan of truffle flavour, full stop, are you?
I'm not a massive fan. We should have brought the gherkin ones with us because, like you said earlier, the combination of this with the little pickle things does work a lot better. So we're going to field a few more questions now. And then if you want to hang on, we're going to tell you what's in these barrels. And we're going to tell you what we've also got in tank. And we're going to tell you what releases you can look forward to soon.
You like this one? Views from the bar. I know
Oh,
Lee,
Mark.
Yeah, I know Lee's really proud of Big Eagle 2020. Any plans to add it to the core range? Well, I haven't read that last bit. I thought you were going to say any plans to rebrew it.
So, very nice prompt there, Mark. Thank you. Because we have it in tank right now. We've brewed twice as much as we did last time. And we expect to package it in about 2 weeks' time. As to whether we plan to add it to the core range, no plans yet. We'll see how this next batch sells.
Mm.
Yeah.
That's a good snack and cheese sandwich.
We have any more questions?
Yeah.
Oh, right. I'll read that one then. So, oh, you stitched me up here. How do you pronounce that?
Owen.
Oh. Apparently, EOGHN, apologies, is Owen. Owen Quigley, any plans to open bars in other locations? Absolutely. Something we were already looking at. Obviously, recent events have kind of put the kibosh on that, at least for the short term.
Yeah, we'd love to get more venues open. We anyone who hasn't managed to visit Pocklington yet, it was the first bar outside of York we opened it middle of January, and it was really getting a good bit of momentum behind it before the coronavirus kicked in. So it's a really cool venue. It feels quite different to our tap room and beer hall because it feels more like a local, but it's a local with all the nice touches that we have here. So we have the wide range of cask and keg beer, the screens to tell you what beer's coming up, the street food. I think it just has and then everyone knows your name, like cheers. But yeah, no, it's but yeah, we'd love to.
I watched that yesterday for the first time in, I don't know, it must be 5 years. How random.
So there was another one that I was about to read, I think.
Was it this one?
No, but that was a good one. It was at Kerry Riley. Would you be able to do the beer that cannot be named at a lower ABV? Baby Ruth.
Yeah, it won't be as much fun though, would it? Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Baby beer that cannot be named. So these kind of flavours are something that we will continue to work with. We think they work best in a big stout like this. I think to carry them off, you need the big body that only comes with the big alcohol. So I mean, never say never.
The beer that a lot of people know us for is Tom Coker and the different Tom Coker range of beers. So the big difference to Tom Coker is that most of the flavour and the bit you recognise that beer for comes from us hand toasting coconut, fresh cacao. It's all super natural, super fresh. Dessert in a can beers, they do have some boost from flavourings, which so we're not adverse to using some flavouring, but we prefer to stick with natural ingredients where we can. But one of the things we found with Tom Coco is that the Imperial Tom Coco was the balancing point.
The sweet spot.
Yeah, the sweet spot. So 7.5% worked great. So yeah, maybe there is space for HYG 7.5% or whatever we call it. But one of the tests of that will be the beer that we launched this week, which is Extra Brownie Pints. So Extra Brownie Pints is an 11% chocolate brownie Imperial milk stout. We've already released Brownie Pints, which was 7.5%. So it's interesting to see how those beers will compare.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to jump the gun on that one, but I actually think, as you're saying there, the lower ABV one, for me, will turn out to be the preferable option. So
yeah, we'll see, because it's a funny one with this beer in particular, because it doesn't taste anywhere near 10%. So
does it, Polly? So next question. Sometimes it's like you guys read our minds. Any plans for spirits, gins, etc.?
Yeah, so we already have this lined up at the moment.
So that was at James Ashman.
So we've well, I can't remember how many months ago it was now, but we started the ball rolling a fair few months back, where we asked one of our friends, Dom at Hootinal, to see what he could do with some Tom Coco, to see if he could distill it to do something interesting in the dark spirit range, knowing that we also wanted to do gins at the same time, but we weren't sure how that would go. And well, we were sure. we've got a lot of ideas with that. But yeah, we've got some pretty cool things. Tom Cocoa based dark spirits and
yeah, I mean, my favourite would be, what does coconut go really well with? Rum. I think we have to have a rum that concentrates the flavours of Tom Cocoa. And then we do a really good rhubarb beer. Rhubarb and gin works really well. We also do a really good gooseberry beer. So from that you can probably guess where we might be going with this kind of stuff.
Yeah, so we've got some irons in the fire. We've got some interesting things that we'd like to work on.
So what's your next question? We've done that.
What was the one? Oh yeah, what from Phil McNoodle. What size kit did you guys start brewing on?
The same one that we have now. 10 barrel, 16 hectolitres, 1600 litres. The only reason we're able to produce the beer in the quantity that we do now is that we do what is referred to as multiple turns. We use that kit more than one times in a day, and we fill bigger vessels than that kit can produce in one turn, in one go. So most of our vessels are 3 times the size of our brew kit.
Yeah, so we've made the most of what we had and the space we had. It's not the most efficient way of brewing for the team and the you know how long the guys have to brew, but we just, you know, there's a lot of money invested in a brew house, so we wanted to basically get the most we could out of this kit before we look at our next step, which would be a much bigger brew house, in a much bigger venue. But we would always keep what we've got here for experimental sours, darks, barrelation, taproom beer hall. We always, you know, if we were going to change and grow, which we are hoping to do, we'd definitely go down the Northern Monk route, where you keep your main brewery and taproom as they were, and then grow from that.
My next question leads into the subject that we're going to talk about next. If we have something different, maybe we'll go there.
So that one there, Brew did that. Do you have anything? Did you have anything unique brewed for the now postponed London Craft Beer Festival? Not brewed, but lined up. So every time, one of the things that Lee does when he sets the brew schedule up and the brew calendar up is we look at the big events and we look at what we want to launch at those events to make something really special. So we work backwards. We look at the date that festival's in for, look at when we have to have that beer brewed, and then normally all these weird and wacky ideas for beer launches are saved for those events, whereas you guys have basically been using them all up now. So
I can't remember off the top of my head what I had specifically aligned against that event, but chances are you have already drunk it because we've accelerated our production plans. So at James Summers, please can you open a bar in Brighton? It's not that far when you get used to it. Well, that's about her opinion. At Donna Lucien, bar in Harrogate, please. At Nancy Duss, promise to open in London. Well, to all of you, we'll do what we can. We may need some time.
Yeah. With Popkinton, it was a great example of us trying to focus on local, making sure we get everything right. We make sure we can sort out the supply to the bar. It runs in a similar way to our other bars, because what we didn't want to do is open a venue up miles and miles away, brand new, and then try and have to learn from that, whereas we can learn local. So now we've done one, let's hope that we can roll it out further afield.
Do. I think we'll go with that one next.
I'm not even going to try. Is it at Les G? Let's grab them.
Read the question.
Are you likely to brew Clockwork Orange again?
Is that come from
this wonderful stuff? Good luck.
Right. So I'm just going to.
So Clockwork Orange was, if anyone doesn't know, was a well, it was actually influenced by a cocktail or a hoptail that John and the team have been working on, which is a chocolate orange based cocktail, and it was Imperial Tom Cocoa and then Cointreau and a few other things to give the orange taste with the chocolate. Obviously we couldn't do that in the brewing area, but we did something pretty cool, and we got a lot of great feedback about how it tasted like a chocolate orange. So yeah,
it's kind of the first time we've done the bounce back where a beer became a cocktail and then the cocktail became a beer. It's like the Goose Willis is taken and it becomes Hans Gruber as a hoptail. I've always fancied hand screw as a beer now. I mean, that could work quite well. So, Lewis King, Northern Monk do their Dark and Wild City event. Do you think you'll attend to showcase your beers there? It's an invitation event, so we would have to be invited, but should the invite be offered, we would be there.
Yeah, and one of the things that we've worked pretty hard on over the last few years, which unfortunately this year is going to put a real dent in, is trying to get a bit of recognition from festivals to try and get the invites. We feel that our beer stands up to itself when we go to the events. We're usually pretty busy when we're at beer festivals. London Craft Beer Festival last year was crazy. If you did come and visit, you'll see how busy our vault was. We got some great feedback afterwards that there was only a couple of breweries that had more visitors than we did, and they were in vaults that were twice the size.
Which I believe was Beavertown and Brewdog.
So yeah, it was a crazy event. So we do think that our beer holds its own, and we do lots of variety. We please a lot of people, but the thing in particular that we've got a great reputation for now is dark beer, and in particular Imperial dark beer. So yeah, we'd love to get an invite. If we do, we'd be there definitely.
Next one from at Matt Barker. Your question asking is about as prolific as our beer production. When will this year's barrel-aged stouts be coming out, guys? We don't have an answer on that yet. We like to leave most of them in for between 6 to 12 months, most of them, in fact, 9 to 12 months. There are a few that are near to being ready or could go soon. So this is the collab we did with Turning Point over my left shoulder here. This is Mocha Man Randy Savage, 14% coffee, chocolate, breakfast stout. I love the fact that we call something at 14% a breakfast stout. That, as it says here, was put into these June last year. So we're coming up to 12 months on these ones. So I'd like to hope we'd be releasing these ones soon.
And the other thing that we want to do these beers justice. They aren't going to be cheap beers. They were already high alcohol, high duty, high ingredient cost beers, and we basically held them in a barrel at the right temperature for a long period of time. So when we release them, there's going to be such limited quantity that they're not going to be the cheapest beers, but they are going to be well worth. They're going to be good value. But what we want to do is make sure that we give them justice, and we put them in the right packaging. So they will be in cans because we've got a state-of-the-art canning machine. We want to make sure those cans, for people like me and Lee who like to save beers and barrel and can age them or have them in their collection, we want them to look the part as well as tasting the part. So they're getting some new clothes, and United by Design are working on that at the moment. So
third shout out to Owen and Katie over at UBD tonight. So yeah, they are currently working on designing a new range for us in which these types of beers will be packaged. And that's as much as we can say on that right now. And
don't worry, it won't add to the price. We think the beers will be worth it anyway, so we'll absorb any extra costs that are involved in the packaging. So I've got Steve Jones, Norwich. I'm a massive fan of the Tom Coco in all its guises. I see you've done a few whiskey barrel aged versions too, which sound awesome. So we've only done bourbon, or Tennessee whiskey in Jack Daniel's case. Whiskey's quite a strong flavour, so I'm not sure it'd work with Tom Coco. Have you thought about using PX sherry casks? I'm a big fan of dark sherry, and the marriage of a stout with PX could be a winner.
PX is Pedro Jimenez, and to get a sherry butt, and the butt is about the size of this port thing behind me here, about 500 litres, they're like 800 to £1,000. That is a huge amount of money for one little vessel of wood into which we're going to put a beer. And I'm not saying we're never going to do it, but we could get 5 of these for the same amount of money, and it's more realistic to expect you guys to pay the kind of money that we're going to make a beer in these kind of ones. So I would love to get a sherry one day, but there's just so many other things that we can be using that £1,000 for.
Yeah, I think the main thing will be when we increase our production and we move the main brew house somewhere else, this facility we've got here will be able to focus on stuff like that. So when you've got a batch of beer that's just being brewed to barrel age, or or to sour, or to do something with, then yeah, you can actually invest in the barrels and the storage for those beers. So yeah, nothing anytime soon, but yeah, probably in the next few years.
So the next one, at Kerry Riley, bit early, You're not kidding. But will Fairy Tale of Brew York be back?
Yes, Fairy Tale of Brew York comes back every year. It's not the same beer. Every time we brew it, it's a different beer. But it's the only thing that it follows or has followed so far has been the same strength and the same name. So we do call it the year. So Fairy Tale of Brew York 2020 will be back.
Usually around about, we do come in quite early, about October time.
Yeah.
So you should be able to get it sort of October, November, December, depending on how sales have gone, maybe into January.
And 100% this year we'll be doing a stronger version as well. So the Imperial Fairy Tale of Brew York, or whatever we call it. So yeah, the beer itself in the last few years has been a great beer. Every time I have it, I just think a strong version of this would be great.
So let's do both this year.
Exactly. So Bob Stott, one of our regulars in POC. What's the latest in the Stay Puft and Tom Coco collaboration?
Well, nothing to add since the last time we did this.
Yeah, I got a message from the guys at Tiny Rebel in the meantime. It's still on, we just don't know when until we know when we're allowed out again.
So that's not one we want to do as a virtual collab. We don't want to do that by email or over this kind of communication tool. We physically actually you've been to Tiny Rebel, I haven't been there. I physically want to go there. I want to brew with those guys. I want to see their setup. We need to do this properly.
Yeah,
we're just going to have to work.
We've got to make sure. One of the questions earlier was about the collabs, what you really enjoy and you want to talk about. I think this is going to be one of them. The times at the beer festivals we've been to, we've spent the time with the Tiny Rebel guys. They've always been nuts. So it's been fun nights. And what is our events manager for his birthday this year? In Leeds, it was crazy. I won't go into the details because it'll be embarrassing for everyone involved. But yeah, it was a great night.
Let's just say, Brad from Tiny Rebel is a good guy to go and have a few beers with.
Yeah, it was funny. So Lou Lavelle 44. Any new Tom Coco variants for us to look forward to? Alison's got an obsession with mint chocolate at the moment, so maybe we should do a mint chocolate Tom Coco.
I'm not involved with that one. But I don't know if this is in shot or not, but we have this one here and we have that one over there. John, can you pan? So this is barrel-aged cherry Tom Coco. So this is one of 4 Burgundy red wine barrels, each holding about 250 litres that we've yet to package. It was racked into here, 22nd 08/19. So this is coming up for sort of 10 months in there now. So we're probably like 1-2 months away from packaging that. So that'll be the next new variant you see. I mean, the idea of salted caramel version keeps coming around. I don't know yet.
One of the things I always wanted to do was a marshmallow version, but the thing we're looking at doing with the Tiny Rebel guys, it's going to be a marshmallow and Tom Coco blend. So let's wait and see where we go with that before we do our own version. So we've got on Gareth David Len. As a fan of higher ABV stouts, do you have any plans to create a barrel aging project? So I think we've probably covered that now.
No, we don't really like those.
We've started. We've got a small scale barrel aging thing going on, but yeah, we'd definitely like to do it bigger.
Definitely. As much of this wood as I am allowed to have, I will have. I absolutely love this. I love the beer that comes out of this.
What are you talking about?
No, moving on.
At Ray Woods, what's the next in the Empress Tom Coco series?
I think we've just done that one. That's an Empress.
Yeah,
Empress, sorry, apologies. So these barrels here, so the last iteration we did into 3 different types of bourbon barrel. We did Jack Daniels, Buffalo Trace and Wild Turkey. The best of those was considered to be Buffalo Trace. So this year again we've gone Buffalo Trace, so that's this one here and this one here. And we've done 2 other barrels this year. We've gone Heaven Hill. It's not a bourbon barrel we've used before, but we wanted to do something a little bit different. So you, like us, will be finding out towards the end of this year how that one worked out. Craig Westwood, would you do a nitro stout?
Yep. Yeah, we have done one. So we did a Tom Coco Nitro last year. It was good, but it was super difficult on our current equipment. and we couldn't can it because our canning line wouldn't cope with it. So, but
yeah, and even as sophisticated as our new canning line is, it's not achievable. It's a very financially and technically hard thing to achieve. So we wouldn't be able to do that here. Into keg, it is slightly easier, and we did that before, but it wasn't easy.
No. So, but yeah, we've definitely something we're looking at all the time, and if things change, we definitely do one again because it was great. It was really interesting to see a pint of it poured and settle and really smooth.
So the final question I have here leads us into the kind of final subject we wanted to cover, which was what new beers do we have coming up? So from Melissa Reeves, hello again Melissa, what new beers do you have coming up for us in the next few weeks? So I've forgotten my notes, so I now need to try and remember what we have in tank.
So a really cool one, which I'm really excited about, is literally launching this Friday for delivery. It'll be going live on the website this Friday, be delivered from Tuesday next week. Sorry, delivered Monday. We'll get to your doors Tuesday, is the next variant of Rhubarber Streisand. So we've got Rhubarber Streisand Extra Sour coming out. So we've got a sour version, so like these sweets, the sour rhubarb and custard sweets, to be really cool. 5.5% like the others. Yeah.
It's tasty good. Yeah. We've got Big Eagle 2020 in tank again.
Choc Story gets racked on Friday as well, so that will go live on the website. So
Choc Story's a beer we've done before that, I mean, that was a lower ABV pastry type style beer that you guys absolutely wolfed through, so we've done that again in huger volume this time round.
We've got Roddy's big one.
Oh, that's been brewed next week. So we'll come back to that. I'm just trying to remember what the hell we've got in tank.
Twisted Transistor.
So we're doing a re-release of Twisted Transistor, which is our new metal themed sour IPA, which focuses heavily on Simcoe. What else? This is why I should have my notes. I know. Bear with me. Maybe we're here. Aha! Also in tank. How have we forgotten this one? Tom Coco.
Yeah. So yeah, Tom Coco is a difficult beer to produce for lots of reasons, but one of which is that we actually take all the desiccated coconut and we hand toast it all. So during the coronavirus, it's been pretty difficult to get out to a commercial kitchen and toast the coconut. So we did a small batch here on site with a small oven, and Holly's in the background toasted most of the coconut with lots of burns in the process. So
she's just shown us the scar she still has from using that.
So we've been waiting to, it sold out really quick once we brewed it. So we've been waiting to get it back. So we've got a big batch back soon. What about Imperial Tom Coco?
So Imperial Tom Coco is a beer that we tend to do 2, maximum 3 times a year. A few of you have been contacting us through various social media channels asking when that's coming back again. So we are listening. I think in about 3 weeks' time we're brewing that again, which means in about 6 to 7 weeks' time you should see it on the web store and in various other good and bad locations.
One of the beers again that we requested so many times to bring back was a beer that we used to drink loads of, Triple H. So hoppy, heavenly and hazy.
So that's been brewed today?
So that was like new, but it was one of the first ever New England style beers we made.
The first ever?
There's only 4.3%, so it just worked really well. It was just a really good, easy drinking beer, especially 2 years ago when the World Cup was on. It was the go-to beer. So that's back.
Worked really well on cask and keg, that one.
Yeah, no, it's a cool beer, so look out for that in its new makeover.
Yeah.
So,
what else we got? So Gallagher is also in tank. As we discussed earlier, that's the last time you're going to see that coming around. Probably recipe may live on. Serial Killer, our 6.5% gluten-free beer, is also in tank.
We've also got the return of one of our original core beers. So when we started, we went a bit out there and we decided to brew a New Zealand hopped brown ale as one of our core beers. And that beer is called Kiwi. It's a cracking beer. It's so cool. But
out of our original core range, that or Big Eagle would be my favourite. But in this country, we've kind of fallen out of love with brown beer. So as much as I love that beer, it didn't sell very well. No. So we weren't able to keep producing it, certainly not as part of a core range.
No.
So now it's a like once a year thing, and I'm really glad that this year's iteration's coming around again.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got one of the other crazy breweries we love to work with. And I was literally just speaking to one of the guys from there yesterday. We've got Bone Machine Brewery, so we're brewing
the Mad Fins.
Yeah, we're rebrewing Radon Sigtuna, which is a collab, one of our first collabs we did, and that was with Kimmy and Marco at Bone Machine. So that's a lingonberry sour. So that'll be back very soon.
See, the thing I never get about this beer, so it's a juniper and lingonberry 4.5% sour, and Wayne's dad will only drink our bitter and this beer.
Yeah.
So he likes the brown traditional stuff, so he'll only have that, but apart from that, he'll have the really out there juniper and lingonberry sour. Go for it.
Crazy. And what's the muffin?
And then the other one is we're doing a beer called Muffin Else Matters. So last year we did a beer called Stay True, which was a blueberry stout. This year, well, we love that beer. I love that beer in particular. This year we're going more pastry with it, and we're calling it Muffin Else Matters. And the name you may well have recognised is because of a Metallica song called Nothing Else Matters. So I'm a huge Metallica fan, saw them in Manchester last year. James Hetfield and the rest of the guys are super cool dudes. So the idea is that this can is going to have a blueberry person playing James Hetfield's guitar on the can. So yeah, I'm really excited about that one coming.
Yeah, pretty cool beers coming up.
And then the other re-releases that we have coming up is the next iteration of Rhubarb Beyond the Sour one is we're bringing back the extra custard edition. And then, do you want to mention that one?
Yeah, we've had a few requests for this one. It's one of the beers that you may or may not realise actually has tonka in. We don't brew that many beers with tonka in, but we've got Hey Mango coming back, so mango smoothie IPA with a tiny bit of tonka.
So I forget the name of the guy, but whoever Pebble Dash even, all of our social media accounts with that particular question, yes, it is coming back soon. Darren Minkin, I'm being told. There we go. So Hey Mango is coming back soon, Darren. So just thinking, have we touched on everything here? So we told you about Mocha coming soon. These two here are going to be as yet unnamed Mexican mole stout. So mulatto, ancho, chipotle chilies, cinnamon, chocolate. Don't have a name for that one yet. This is, you might remember the release John Biscotti.
That was a cracking beer. It's it's super complex, isn't it?
So kind of orange and pistachio and hazelnut in a stout, and we've aged that in a 550 litre port barrel. So I'm really excited to see the release of that one. I'm going to get some real special cheese in for the day that we launch that one. What else
I've got HYG behind me.
HYG, yeah, don't do a close-up of that because I've forgotten to blank out the names. And the barrels that aren't in here is we have a couple of masala, so sweet white dessert wine barrels that have chocolate orange, the beer we were asked about recently. So a chocolate orange flavoured beer, so we're aging that in those. And then there's an India stout called Barguest, which we have aging in a wild turkey barrel elsewhere as well. But yeah, we're very keen to do a lot more of this kind of stuff, but it involves a lot of time, it involves a lot of investment, and as you can see, it involves a lot of space.
So that's pretty much it for this time. We've got a lot of different beers coming up, and probably most of the ones we've talked about we'll put into another box set that we can do in maybe 3 or 4 weeks' time. And hopefully you guys will be keen to join us again.
And we'll try and bring the ABV, or average ABV, down next time. I know we've gone a little bit higher this time, and you probably noticed, by the way, I've been slurring my speech in the last half hour. It does affect you. So last thing to say is thank you all once again for joining us. Thank you all for buying the box. Thank you for continuing to support us. We really want to hear your feedback. We want to know what's gone well here, what's not gone so well, what would you change? And if you have any ideas around beers we could be doing going forward, especially silly pun type names, we'd love to hear them. So contact us through any social media channel, or you can contact us at info@brewyork.co.uk.
Okay, cheers guys.
Cheers.
You actually start filming.
I don't say